You're watching Oneness of the Quilt with Sister Abid, also known as Madam S4. And we're right here live at the coolest station in the world, WJZZ Cool TV. And we're streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. And other top social media, like we want you to like, follow, share, comment, and subscribe. So we thank you for watching. Tune in regularly with WJZZ Cool TV with the Oneness of the Quilt. Sister S4, Madam S4 is en route, and I'm your host, your co-host at this time, Brother Pamezo Sun Wobble, aka Matt Martin, and we've got a very interesting program for you here today. And when Madam S4 arrives, she's going to break it down to you. But right now, I think we're going to talk about the 6 and 7 C's that she always mentioned, and we're going to share that with you. We're going to talk about the relationship of that with Kwanzaa, and we're going to talk about the things that involve our community right here and ways to uplift the community. Our focus is on family, culture, and community, and all the things that involve that. And we've got numerous questions on what it takes to create, build, develop a strong family. And here's a sister coming in right now, and she's going to run it down to you, talking about the 7 C's and all the things that involve our culture, our family, and our community.
Hey family, it's Madam S.A.S. in the Glock. High Priestess Lioness in the house. I'm sorry I'm late, y'all. Was taking care of a little business and forgot about the time. I'm going to do better. We're going to work this out together. Yes, we are here. Thank you, Sam Wobble, for having my back. And that's why I sit at a round table. Some people ask me how things were going. I said, yes, I'm no better than anybody else. And nobody is better than me. I can be asked a question. I don't feel bad by that. And so we here, this is my culture, indigenous culture. We sit in round circles. We sit at round tables. Everybody has voice. And that voice is important, that contribution. So I just want to thank you for holding my back and holding it down. And God had it work out this way to show you how we roll together, and that's how I'm from the North End.
That's what I'm talking about.
And so North End, my grandmother always taught us, y'all all left together, y'all all better come back together. All and right. We knew if we had to do whatever we had to do, we had to come back together. So that's the type of person I am. I got some people rolling with me, like Sam Wabo. I got to give a shout out to my peeps on the North End.
Shout it out.
Shout it out. North End in the house. Yes, indeed. So, yes, we are talking. Last week, we kind of had a broad discussion about Kwanzaa and those 7 principles. And how can we go from celebrating this holiday to implementing this holiday? And so today, I wanted to kind of mix it up and dig a little deeper and talk about the 7 C's. This is Madam A.S. Glock, High Priestess Lioness. The 7 C's, and I have an organization called Soma Bishara. Soma means read, and Bishara means business. So why should we be reading? Why should we have literacy? Because literacy is important in business. But getting back to these 7 C's, I'm all about community. And I thought about words. I had 4 of them because I like the number 4. I think it's good. But my daughter told me, Mama, you need 7. I just feel it in my spirit. You need to call it 7 C's. I said, I could come up with more than 7 C's. But these are the 7 that I came up with that are very important to us as we're laying this foundation down, Sam Wobble. And that's culture.
There it is.
Capacity.
Contribution.
Creativity. Change.
Communication.
And connectedness.
All right. Those are the things that
Yes.
7 C's are composed of. All right. Oh,
Yes, yes. This is 7
so,
C's.
so we're gonna break it down, run it down, and show how it works.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Let me take off. I came out of the cold. Y'all see, I wear many hats in presentation. But when I thought of culture, and you know a lot more than I do about Kwanzaa and the deepness of that. And so when I thought of culture, I thought of umoja. You know, how do we get to unity? Isn't it through our culture? What do you have to say about that, Sanwabo?
Well, let's see. Our culture is made up of our collective traditions, our customs, the way we live, and the values and principles that we live under. And our culture is acted out in our footsteps. In the way we carry ourselves, and it starts, with a simple thing like charity begins at home, and then it goes abroad. And so our culture mainly begins in our household, and our household is made up of people who have been received principles and values from our ancestors, and our elders that are passed down to. So when our kids come out of our household, it's either they've been culturalized by family principles, or they go out in the street and get culturalized by the principles in the street, or they go out into the schools and they get culturalized by the schools, and they pick up the traditions and values, of members of those particular groups, and so it behooves us to have a strong foundation of principles to live under. You ever heard that phrase, my grandmama said?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
And my granddaddy told me. and so we pick up their traditions and their behavior patterns, and we create some kind of foundation to build on from there. And so culture is one of the most important things. One of the problems that we have is with black folks is that a lot of our culture is being erased right in front of us.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Has been erased, has been hidden, has been distorted, and and it's totally been erased. I had an experience at the African American Museum not long ago, and of course that is a center of culture.
Yes.
Even though from time they focus on some of the atrocities that our people have suffered since being here in this continent, and or those that were transported and labeled as the enslaved. They've captured a lot of that, but they also captured a lot of the historical aspects of our people prior to this understanding of today's traditional civilization. And so I had a unique experience. I was setting up to cover some discussions, or cover what we call the launching of the exhibit of King Tut at the African American Museum, which is going to be there from January through August, and it was quite extensive. And while my goal there was to come in and interview a lot of the people there, the management, the directors, the people in the promotional area of the museum, and so while I was setting up, one of the elders came up to me, and he was astounded by one of the displays that I was setting up next to, so he was looking at it while I was, doing something else, and he came up to me and sort of whispered softly to me. He says, those Egyptians didn't have time for foolishness, And I said, whew, that's a powerful statement there, brother. The Egyptians didn't have time for foolishness. And I said, I know you're gonna run that down to me. And he says, they were busy. They didn't have time for foolishness. They were busy creating things like languages. They were busy building or creating mathematics, geometry. They were busy creating astrology, medicine, logic, and they were busy building pyramids. They were busy building obelisks, and they were organized. Their eyes was understanding, the universe that we lived in, and realizing that everything didn't revolve around the planet Earth. And this is thousands of years ago, and so they were busy. They didn't have time for all the distractions that we undergo in this culture. They were building a culture that would last through dynasties, one after another, one dynasty after another, with no conflicts, no major conflicts, wars, or strife. One dynasty after another.
Okay.
And where we're caught up, distracted in the few hundred years that we've been here, in things like pettiness, individualism, racism, greed, who's busy destroying another, destroying the air, destroying the water, destroying the soil, destroying other people's culture, their history, their language, their understanding of themselves for selfish purposes.
So what I hear you saying, identity is important.
Yeah, I'm saying identity. Yeah, and I was just saying the whole thing about that is the culture we're in now, as opposed to the busy people of Egypt who didn't have time for foolishness.
Right. Okay, because that's what we're doing, family. We are identifying, we're linking up the 7 C's to a principle of Kwanzaa and identifying what is that problem. So Sam Wabo was just going through, kind of showing us what our problem is about unity. Okay, because we're trying to get to unity, and we used culture, and he kind of backed into that. And he gave us words of wisdom of what we're missing to get to unity.
Yeah, so I'm saying in their business, unity was required.
Yes.
They had to be on one accord. They have to have the same objectives, the same goals, the same vision of the future.
Yes.
That's what led them from dynasty after dynasty, in peace. They were not distracted. And one of the signs of unity, you had to do your...
No, it's not.
Oh, okay. Well, one of the signs of disunity is distractions.
Can we talk about Willie Lynch for a little bit right
Willie
here?
Lynch. Okay, okay.
Because that's what I kind of is reminding me of how did this occur with our people who come from the Ethiopia. When our people left the mother country, that's what it was called. So I refer to myself, my heritage is Ethiopia. Because I didn't my people didn't leave that land when it was called Africa. So to identify that distinction, because there's a distinction to me between a continental African and the people here who came out of Ethiopia.
Okay.
Because that was the cornerstone of our community. It was always about community with Ethiopians. When I say Ethiopia, I'm talking about the whole motherland.
Okay.
This was the whole of Ethiopia, not just what's in the Horn of Africa now, but the oneness of Ethiopia. And that's one of the reasons why I call the show The Oneness of the Quilt. Because it's about seeing that visual. A quilt is different from a blanket. It's got squares.
Okay.
It's all connected and it's one. But it has these distinctions in each square. And that's what I heard you say about unity. And when you were starting up, some people from our community have linked up with other squares. Right. And they on that. That's very important. And so I feel we need to get to the place to understand our square. And not that the people who have gone to the other square are lost, because they're still in the oneness. Because this is another cornerstone of our community. We always stay together. and we want this togetherness. But I really feel if we are going to achieve unity for the urban center, those who are committed to the urban centers, we've got to identify those leaders and move on. Because the other people, kind of what we talked about last week, they're not really being leaders for us. Are they being black crackers?
They are assimilating, into what Martin Luther King called a burning house. He says, I may have integrated my people into a burning house, is what King said. And so integration can easily turn to disintegration, if you have no culture and you're seeking to identify with the very culture that is oppressing you,
Okay. So we got to stop right here. We got station ID. You're watching WJZZ Cool TV. This is the Oneness of the Quilt Show, live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Like, follow, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. And I want to give a shout out to one of my organizations, Joseph James. We are a business-to-business solutions. We do grant administration, nonprofit administration, training and development, and staffing. Okay, so now that we have that taken care of, the business is business. Gotta take care of the business. That's part of the unity. We can't forget about that. We love to orate our community, but we gotta do that. So you were saying, Sanwabo?
Well, for example, with Kwanzaa, there's a definition of unity, and they call it a fundamental requirement for people to understand themselves. Okay, and it's the first foundational principle of Nguzo Saba, and it's a principle that we practice together, and it's done for the mutual benefit of all. It's almost like a collaboration. When you have cooperation and a collaboration, you have everyone sitting at the table.
Yes.
And everyone put what they have, their gifts, their talents,
Yes.
their resources,
Yes.
their knowledge and experience, they put it on the table.
Yes.
And in that, they adopt the ideal that in unity there is strength.
Yes.
And in the group, in this unification, can do more things, much more than the individual.
So are you saying the group can be like the vanguard?
Well, I'm just saying the group is more powerful than the individual. When we're dealing with individualism, we're looking at a culture we're in now that rewards individualism. You look at sports or entertainment. It's the individual achievement that's glorified.
Yes.
Not whether it benefits the group that it's a part of, or the community that's a part of. It's the achievement itself. You're an individual. You're a star. The spotlight is on you.
Yes, I remember.
It has nothing to do with leadership.
Yes, I remember being a very young child, and my grandmother was something of a socialite, and my father was in business, and they talked about the entertainment, how the old people had got together, and there was a help to help the singers and the record labels link up to what they needed to link up. But the deal was that they were supposed to come back.
See?
That was part of the culture. And so I grew up with this in my house, and my grandmother made a statement. She wasn't mad. She was a soft-spoken woman. She said they didn't come back.
Okay.
And I just remember looking at my grandmother, and I said, well, you know what, Grandma? I'm going to come back. I'm going to go out, but I'm going to come back to Detroit. And I'm going to be about helping our community. That's all I remember. Just a child. But here I am keeping my word to my grandmother.
Your grandma sounded like she had some strong principles.
Oh, yeah, she did.
Run it down to me.
Oh, my grandmother. This is my mother's mother. Both of my grandmothers are something. My father's mother was, she was. You just looked at her and you knew she was bad. She wore her head cocked to the side.
Mm-hmm.
My mother always says to me, "You remind me of them." Because I'm built like them, the way I walk, the way I carry myself. And so, but my mother's mother, she was a homemaker, and she was very soft-spoken, but she carried a powerful stick. A powerful stick.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you this story about that can really wrap up my grandmother. We were playing cops and robber out in the North End. And, no, hide and seek. It was hide and seek. Because we played Mr. Clock, Mr. Clock. Y'all remember that? Yeah. Who don't remember that? We used to have fun in the hood. But we were playing hide and seek, and me and my brother were hiding in my uncle's car. Well, police officers come to the car with flashlights, and they tell us to get out. And they let my brother out. But when I was getting out, and I was very young, they cocked a gun in my face. And no sooner than they cocked that gun, because my grandmother was the one that knew whatever was going on the block. She jumped out with her hot power rifle and scoped the cop's head. She said, "Pull the trigger. I assure you, your head gonna be blowed off."
See?
They talked to my grandmother and said, "Oh, I'm sorry. We thought they were robbers. We heard some gunshots." And she began to bless them out, as you can imagine. Ain't no way in the world you thought these little kids were some robbers.
Grandma didn't have no time for foolishness.
Oh, no, because everybody on the North End know how the FBI and what the government did to us. See? And I learned a little bit. I watched Dr. Carl Anderson. I didn't know a lot about him, but I wanted to know more about him. I agree with a lot of things that he say. But he talks about the 5 civilized tribes, which a lot of people I know in the North End come out of.
See?
And he had some stories that were foreign to me. But I had to realize he's a researcher. And he's looking at documents. And one thing I can say about my people, they'll trick the government and say whatever.
See?
So I don't know what was said in those 1866 Act. But I do know he did say when they released what they called the black population of the 5 civilized tribes, because there was a negotiation between the United States government that they had to let them go. But the natives, indigenous, whatever we want to call them, so we would let them go, but they have to be accepted as part of native. Whether U.S. government counter, because they couldn't have that, could they?
See? Well,
and so you had to be a quarter. The U.S. government only recognizes a quarter. But that doesn't mean the 5 civilized tribes still don't recognize you.
Well, you know what they say about black folks? They didn't so much mention a quarter. They said if you have one drop of black blood, and they use the word black. If you have one drop of black blood, you were not white, whatever that meant.
Oh, yes.
But that just meant that, you were, same way they do in India and some of the other places, you was subjected to the working class, which were enslaved people. You had no rights, as they said in the Dred Scott decision, that a white man was bound to respect. Yeah. And that law is still on the book today.
Yeah, well, it's been 5 generations for me. I'm not sure all that's what my grandmother told me. She said, if it don't come out in the wash, it's coming out in the rinse.
Oh, yeah.
She said, because we done stepped into a bucket of crabs.
See?
And I didn't come to the conclusion, she called it nicely, a bucket of crabs. But her mahogany granddaughter, gonna call it as she see it, nothing but black crackers.
See? Well, we're in the rinsing stage now.
Oh, we rinsing?
A lot of stuff is coming out.
It's a French rinse for me. How many cycles has it been, Sam Marble? This is some dirt that is just deep. And as a lot of pastors know, I said, I didn't know it was that deep. I didn't know it was this deep. But I'm ready. Right. I'm ready. I'm ready. I can buck up.
Okay.
So I heard you mention the word collaboration. So let's take us to what I feel should be our next step. I know in the original principle of Kwanzaa, we have unity, self-determination is next, collective responsibility, cooperative economics, purpose, creativity, and then faith. I kind of see it differently.
Okay.
And I see it as unity,
Okay.
collective work and responsibility, and then purpose,
Okay.
creativity, faith, and then self-determination, and then cooperative economics. But however we see it, I want to talk about, because you mentioned collaboration.
Yeah. Well, the whole idea about collaboration is when you put something on the table, you know, it becomes it becomes more than a negotiation. It becomes something that is supposed to be beneficial to everybody sitting at the table. So if you're sitting at the table and you've put your gifts and your resources on the table, it's supposed to also benefit you as well as everybody else sitting at the table. So if anybody sitting at the table is not benefited from the collective, then it's not a collaboration.
Okay.
You know, so that's what makes it a collaboration. Everyone benefits.
Everyone
You know,
benefits.
one way or the other.
So that's why I see we have to, we unify, and then we get to our collective work. And so I had some exciting things happen to me this week, Sam Weber, where I could see collective work from my perspective. I don't know if anybody else is seeing it, but there's some collective work starting to go on.
See?
We're coming together and we're doing this collective work. And I was just so happy to get to that point, that this square that we're talking about, not everybody else's square in the quilt, but this square is doing its collective work.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was just very happy. And I think we're on the verge to say, you know, after we get to this collective work, what is our purpose?
See?
So that's why I see it in that. We come together because we got to first do some collective work before we can get to come together and say, what is the purpose?
Okay. I guess in Kwanzaa they call it Nia. And they say this is a commitment to collective vocation of building and developing and defending. You know, you build the type of future, you know, for your family, for your children, for your grandchildren. You develop it with them in mind. And then you have to create a way to maintain it and defend it. You know, you know, we saw what happened in Tulsa. You know, they built a community. The community was self-refueling, self-generating.
Yes.
You know, and growing.
Yes.
And this country said, well, that's not consistent, you know, with the goals of America. You know, they didn't even consider black people citizens, much less, you know, equal entities.
Yes.
And so their reaction was to make an open war. You know, it's always been a war against black people. They want to make it an open war, and they, the state government, the local government, and the federal government all collaborated for their own mutual benefit.
Sounds like a conspiracy and that's a C
for
word,
their own
y'all.
mutual benefit to destroy a black community.
Yes,
Did the same thing in Rosewood. You know, and I've discovered that it's happened numerous times. You know, not just to the black community. You know.
Yes, that's why I love talking to you, because see, you got all that history. So when I think of Nia, purpose, I think of contribution, and that's what you kind of say. You got to find a way to maintain it. So those contribution, and I did skip one, y'all. Ujima, capacity for collective responsibility. You gotta understand capacity, and that's one of those 7 C's that I want to talk about.
Well, the Ujima had to do with the fact that they call it let's see. They said that basically in Ujima, the ideal was that we made our brothers and sisters problems, our problems. You know, and that's what you don't see in the people that we pull up as leaders, the people that are supposed to be the spokesmen for the black community. They don't seem to relate to the goals and the issues and the concerns and the interests of the black community. Matter of fact, it's been determined that we don't even have a community. We have disjointed residential neighborhoods. You know, it reminds me of the joke that Richard Pryor would say when the guy was standing there kind of inebriated and a car flew down the street, and he said, "What's wrong with you? This is a neighborhood. This ain't no residential district." You know, but the definition is it's a residential neighborhood. It's not a community. You know, and it's disjointed from all the other residential neighborhoods, and it has no boundaries. It has no accountability. You know, and so
who thought of that to destroy our school districts? They gave us distinction, and out of distinctions, we can create some economic development.
Right, and you said who thought to destroy the? It was black legislators right after the Civil War that created the public school system. They created it in the South, and it became a national project.
That thought. We got to take care of some business. Station ID. You're watching the Oneness of the Quilt, live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and other top social media platforms. Like, follow, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. Do you have a business you want to give a shout out to, someone?
Gosh, I didn't bring my business card or anything, but nothing I can really develop now, other than I'm a part of the Shrine of the Black Madonna,
all right,
and in their graphics and media department, and we're working on a lot of what you call projects nationally, because we have churches in Houston, Atlanta, Beulah, South Carolina, North Carolina. We have a 4,000-acre farm in Beulah, in South Carolina called Beulah, and we also have a church in Liberia. You know, and so when we this Zoom thing has created a heck of a network now, and so we're talking with people constantly in other locales, and creating the type of unity and the mutual goals and the concerns and the creativity that generates from all these different areas at the same time, and we're coming up with some wonderful connections. You know.
Well, I just want to also give a shout out or honor to the Shrine of the Black Madonna, as I know it. And I could be wrong because I don't know everything, and if I'm wrong, please let me know. But do it respectfully. The Shrine of the Black Madonna was one of the first religious institutions that really understood the value of culture for our people. And so that's why it's an honor to have you here, because that's culture and community are buzzwords for me. Because that's what we need to create back in the community, and we need to have distinctions. You're not going to tell me that the Avenue of Fashion is the same thing as Harper between Chalmers and Connors. They're different. It's a whole different vibe. You know, East Side, you got to come respect with East Side. And I always have an affinity to East Side because it was the roots of our people. We came out of neighborhoods like Conant Gardens, the Davidson, or where Davidson Freeway is, the North End, Paradise Valley, Sugar Hill, Black Bottom. That was all East. And so you if you don't recognize East Side, to me, you're just not recognizing your roots.
I came out of Conant Gardens.
Oh yeah, Conant Gardens was where our intellectual blacks lived. And see, our babies need to know that. They need to know we had a structure. We had strong businesses. You know, I'm all for 375 being infilled in and recreating Black Bottom.
See?
Okay? Because why did you need... I know Robert Moses, and I give him his props. He was wasn't really a planner, but he had shovel-ready projects ready in the 40. And he went against Jane Jacobs. But he kind of wanted to... Because there was no need for 375.
See,
and that took out our community.
Yeah, well, Detroit has always been a self-determined city in terms of that's what's written in the charter. You know, that they have powers of self-determination. But Detroit is just being it's created as a project now. If here you got 85% of the members of the community are black, and so the project is if you can do it in Detroit, you can do it anywhere.
Well, let's make it happen. Let's make it happen.
But I'm
let's,
saying
let's,
this is
all the
this is
people of
what the
light in our
culture,
square.
the outside culture is saying. If you can destroy, dismantle, and tear up, you know, the school system, if you can bankrupt the city and give away all its assets, you know, if you can create a open door for the suburbs to come in and just what you call use it as a dumping ground.
Uh-huh.
If you can do that in Detroit, in the face of 85% of black people allowing you to do that, and then you know, just like now, if you can do it in Detroit, we've got legislators that aren't black. You know, how many representative legislators do we have that are black? You know, very few when it comes on the legislative basis. We've got a mayor that's not even black, and we've got priorities and issues and corporations and state mandates that have nothing to do with black people. You know, you got a state legislator that edges the other Metro Detroit suburbs to be anti-Detroit. You know, and you wonder, why is that? What's going on? Why is the media encouraging stuff? Why is the media trying to normalize
But why are the
stuff
black
like
crackers? I had a black cracker. I worked for executive office for the state. And one day this black cracker comes in and tells me I better not mess with a legislator. I don't know what she's talking about. But why is this? Let's deal with our square again.
Well, I'm just listening to your expression, black cracker. You know, the cracker. You know what that was?
I didn't for a long time. I learned that when I was an adult and moved to New York.
Okay.
I always thought people were talking about a saltine cracker because they would be. They would say something white and then cracker.
Yeah.
So I always thought they were talking about a saltine cracker for years.
Right. Well, it's always been associated with white people, but the cracker on the plantation was the person with the whip.
Yeah.
He was cracking the whips across the backs of the slaves for not picking cotton fast enough.
Right.
You know, and then were there black crackers? Of course there were. You know, black overseers.
Well, I see
there were
some
even
now.
black slave owners. You know, before the Civil War started, there was numerous black slave owners who had been indoctrinated into a system where, you know, they were a part of the institution. And that's the whole thing about institutional racism. You know, the genius of it is...
So what I'm hearing you say, I just want to get it right. It's really not about color then.
Well, institutional racism is white supremacy. That's about color, but it forwards and supports and promotes all the agendas and concerns and the resources of white folks in an institutionalized manner to keep black folks in bondage.
Okay.
You say in bondage,
well, I see some
oppressed.
I see some white and black supremacy going on that's doing that in this day and
I mean,
age.
look at this criminal
and
justice.
that's why I say black crackers. So I can use a word kind of that a lot of people know, a cracker, but I'm concerned because I can see the white ones coming. See, I'm concerned about the black ones because, you know, if I think it's just about color, I think you, my brother or sister, but you know,
Well,
remember
how do
that
you get
song?
a black cracker?
You smile in your face all the time, wanna be in your place. The backstabber. I listen to some of them songs and I really see our culture in it. Just like on the plantation, I heard they would sing songs and give clues out.
See?
And that's what music was about with our people. So we were hearing something in the 70s. Watch out for them people. You know, I'm going to turn them black crackers for me. Watch out for them black crackers. Because they'll smile in your face and stab you in the back.
Well, there's plenty of black whip crackers out there on behalf of massa. Obviously, that's who they're working for. You know, it's massa. I mean, a black cracker wouldn't have a job as an overseer or a whip cracker, you know, without massa. And so, you know, massa has now turned into institutions.
Institution. And, you know, we have flowed right into creativity. That word.
Okay.
And for that, I agree because Kwanzaa says creativity. And can you say the word in, is this Swahili?
Kuumba.
Kuumba.
That's creativity.
We had some creativity through music. We got some things through.
And they say Kuumba follows purpose, follows Nia, is what they're saying here. There's a commitment to be creative.
I kept that order, if you see. I didn't know that. Okay. But I said it should be purpose and then creative. And I didn't know that. You just telling me, because I'm willing to check myself. I'm one of those people. Because I may not be right. But I'm glad at least I kept that together.
Yeah. And so we have an obligation to restore things and to create things without, if we're going to imitate anything, we'll imitate the Creator.
Yeah.
That's the only entity that we'll create, that we will imitate.
Yeah.
And by seeing the Creator within ourselves. And that's one of our obligations, is to create something, look at a blank screen and create something that wasn't there, that's going to uplift and benefit, our culture, our communities, and our families. That's the whole essence of Kawumba. Just like creating a song, or creating an image, or creating a combination of songs and images and words and music, and also behavior patterns.
Okay.
We have to be creative in our behavior patterns and stuff,
Yes.
and not chalk it up to an individual achievement that requires a spotlight.
Yeah, and so now you bring back one of those problems, what you're saying right now, of this. And what I see with creativity, we have a lot of creative people. I've met so many, and they'll tell me I'm a creative. But then in the same breath, they say I don't do work. But they want to get paid. And the society here pays for implementation.
See?
And, I don't want to bring religion in it, but there has to be some demonstration that you have to do. And that correlate, when to do a demonstration is about doing some work. And so we have a lot of people who are creative. But for that, the path they want to go in, they don't want to do any work.
Well, work is the whole essence of what they say, collective work and responsibility. How are you going to build, how are you going to create, how are you going to develop, and not defend something without work?
How do we get to
the kids use
our
this,
people, and they're young and old. I'm meeting them as old as in their 60s to as in their 30s and younger. How do we get to them? How do we help them?
Well, we first got to arm them with a culture, with a vocabulary.
Okay.
My experience with young folks, working in what they call these alternative schools, in many cases, and seeing the young folks that's out on the street getting arrested and put in these detention centers, and most of them between the ages of 13 and 19, have a communication deficiency.
Okay.
They don't have a vocabulary, like a infant child who is disturbed about something, doesn't have the words to explain the problem, that he's wet, he's hungry, or irritated, or whatever. He's going to cry out because he can't express himself in words. Teenagers, adolescents are the same way. They don't have the vocabulary to articulate the way they feel, what the problem is, what the issue is, their confusion, and so they act out.
Okay, that sounds a little bit like
autism
to me.
So here you have a 6'4", 200-pound, 14-year-old acting out, and how does he look through the sights of a law enforcement officer?
Right.
Through the sights of a law enforcement officer. How does he look?
Exactly.
He looks like a threat.
Exactly.
And their favorite words is, "Oh, I felt threatened." That's why I emptied my gun and reloaded it and emptied it again while he was laying on his stomach. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. You felt threatened. And of course, the image of, but just as you see a young man looking like he's an adult, and they can use that imagery to their advantage in a positive way.
Okay,
By
I'm hearing
just changing
you.
their
I'm hearing you.
behavior.
So I feel that, at least something I saw that I wanted to contribute. I have a nonprofit, Soma Bashada. Soma means read, and Bashada means business.
Right.
And we got to take care of some business right here.
Hook it up. We got
All right
15
now,
minutes
the
left.
coolest. You're watching the Oneness of the
10
Quilt, live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Like, follow, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world.
See?
Yes. So, I was saying that this is I feel good because I said if I'm really talking about helping someone, if they're illiterate or reading at a 3rd or 5th grade level, that has to be increased in the 21st century. Even the farm doesn't use as many farm hands as it used to because it has machinery. And so I said, I feel this is something I need to do because I've heard from people, yes, there are literacy organization out there, but they have told me, I've had people come to me and say, direct me, guide me. I trust you. See, I went the long way. I worked out I rolled up my sleeves. I put boots on the ground. I was out there. I listened, and I could get them connected to wherever they needed to go. And so I'm very happy about that, and I'm going to keep on in that vein because they want to work with me. They trust me, and they have confidence, and they won't go to the other institutions because I asked them. So this is why I did it. Not trying to disrespect colleagues who are doing that work in there. But this is, again, about community. And community, to me, is about safety. You feel safe in that space. And that's why you got a Kentucky Fried Chicken on Wyoming and 7 Mile. And you got a Kentucky Fried Chicken on 7 Mile in the Lodge. Not far away from each other.
Okay.
But 2 different kind of communities. But they got their own Kentucky Fried Chicken.
See?
So I'm going to have to explain that to some people when they ask me why am I delving into literacy.
Yeah.
But I wanted to come to our next faith, because I believe faith should be next. After we've done all this work, unity, collective responsibility, purpose, creativity.
Well, faith,
Iman.
Imani.
And for that word of the seeds, change.
Mm-hmm. Well, it has a lot to do with your
Okay, we got to stop for a station break again.
Okay.
You're watching the Oneness of the Quilt, live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Like, follow, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. Okay, Son Robert, let's continue. We got a couple of minutes. I'm sure we can knock this out and finish up the 7 C's and the 7 principles of Kwanzaa.
Well, just like your grandmothers, that's where faith comes in. A lot of times you do the things your grandmother told you to do.
Yeah.
And why? Right? It boils down to because my grandmama said. Right?
Yeah.
You don't really know.
I know.
Right?
I've been there.
But you know Grandma said.
Wouldn't have told me something if I didn't need it.
And so you're walking with a strong belief that Grandmama wouldn't lead you wrong. Grandmama's telling you like it is.
Yes.
And there's some substance to what she did based on Grandma's experience and understanding and, in life.
Yeah,
And
blessings
she's sharing
be
that
upon
with you.
Grandma.
And so, that's what faith is. Faith is like walking not by sight.
Yes.
And believing that the things that the things that you have coming forth from your actions and from your behaviors and the path that you're on are greater than anything that you can conceive. But first, you got to start, and you got to have a foundation to start with. So, Grandma said is the basis of you going forward, with that strong belief and knowing that, she believed what God has for you is for you, but it's even greater than anything that you can imagine.
Yeah.
And so your job is to go forth on that faith and say, do the thing that's right, that's going to lift up your family, your community, and your culture.
Right. And that's why I link change with that, because things are constantly changing.
Mm-hmm.
And so we need that faith to keep us grounded,
Mm-hmm.
that it's going to work out. Though our sight is seeing the change and we may feel a little uncomfortable. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of change is one of those things. And I work in change management. But I want to go on to the next one. I did want to,
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned a word. You said, we were talking about faith. You said sight.
Walking by, not by sight. Oh, yeah, but I'm just saying, it's knowing that you have greater things ahead of you if you continue your work.
Right. Okay.
And he's saying people don't work. They don't believe in work. No, based on your work, your deeds, your efforts. Is what your grandchildren. Like we have a sacred trust, right, with those that have gone before us, our ancestors and our elders.
Yes.
And with those that come after, our children and the unborn.
Yes.
And so. What do you think we're here to do? Work for them to make it, a little clearer for them. It's they're saying, if you're walking and stumbling and tripping, as you go forward, then your children are going to have a hard time visualizing, where it is forward. If you're zigzagging and falling, they're going to be stumbling right behind you.
And that's why I want to come up, because we got 4 more minutes. We got 2 more principles and 2 C's. Self-determination. If we could do about 1.5 minutes on self-determination, if you could give us the Swahili word for that.
It's called Kujikagalia.
Okay, I link communication up with that, self-determination.
It demands that we, as African people, define, defend, and develop ourselves instead of allowing and encouraging others to do it for us.
Okay.
When we refuse to identify ourselves, we run into things like gender confusion. Who am I? And am I what God made me to be, or am I waiting on somebody to define me?
Yes.
And as
or validate me.
Yeah, validate. Even as a family, as a group, you waiting on somebody to define you as a group. As a people, they're all Negroes. Yeah, we got that word somewhere in Spanish for whatever. Okay, so people identifying you, tagging you, labeling you, and as opposed to you labeling yourself, labeling your own children, defining your own future, your goals, your objectives. It's like I say, Detroit is a self-determination city.
Yeah.
So it's being self-determination.
And this is why I chose communications, because it's all about changing the narrative. You've got to communicate who you are.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to show people the line. Somebody taught me that, because I'm a humble, nice person. And she said, Michelle, that's my given name. She said, you got to show people where the line is. I said, is that what is going on? I thought they had common sense.
Yeah, so in Kujikagalia, you have to define yourself, and you have a responsibility to for your own existence.
Okay. And last but not least, we have a couple of minutes to wrap on this powerful, powerful Kwanzaa principle. Mm-hmm. And I chose the word connectedness for this, of my 7 C's. And I built the 7 C's before I thought to even talk about Kwanzaa. But I said, okay, how can I move forward of Kwanzaa with each of these 7 C's? And from what I'm understanding, it's not a pretty bad way to move forward. And so connectedness with cooperative economics. And if you could give us the Swahili word.
Well, for cooperative economics is Ujamaa, which is the 4th principle. But connectiveness has to do with, here's a phrase that John Conyers once said. We were interviewing him. And
okay.
his definition was, everything is everything.
And we're going to have to end with that.
Okay.
It's been a great show. We'll pick up that back. But as you know, next month is Black History Month. We look forward to having you here, family. I am Madam A.S. Interclock, High Priestess Lioness, And
Amazo Sun Wobble.
okay, and we'll see you next week, Saturday at 5 p.m. on WJZZ, the cool TV in the world.